You see miracles every day. It's like a normal thing. But we were teaching this less active, and her kids were less active too, but her grandkids were members, so they were all less active. But this grandma was returning. But she had this granddaughter who is currently being taught by this other church, and this other church is really known for having very stubborn members that don't want to hear from Mormons. They're not like anti-Mormon, but they're actually a break off of our church, is what I heard. They're just really hard to the truth. So she was being taught by these other missionaries at the same time we show up. And she just wanted to know the truth. She was so ready, and she was just wanting to know. And the other thing, this church teaches that Jesus isn't a God. He was just a person. He died. That was it. And that really bothered me. And I remember we taught her, and she had so many questions, so we taught her all lesson 1. Then we taught her all of lesson 2 in one sitting, which we typically wouldn't do. And then we came back for lesson 3, and she started hiding from us. And I was like, great. So her grandma like calls her out, because her grandma was so spunky. Her grandma calls her out, and she's like, sisters, I've decided I'm a member of this church now. I'm going to get baptized in 6 months in October, which was when I was leaving. And she's like, that's what I am now. And I was filled with such fire. I don't think I've ever felt my testimony so strong. I kind of struggled with my testimony of Christ. I didn't think it was as strong as other things because I couldn't really understand him. But I really felt at that moment I had a testimony of Christ. And we just bore witness that he is the Son of God, that he is a God. We opened up to a scripture in Mosiah 3, I think, that just says he rose again on the 3rd day. And I never testified so powerfully. And then it was funny because she didn't change. Well, I thought for sure she would come around, but she didn't. But it was funny because her whole less active family is in there, and they start teaming up on her and just be like, you're crazy. What are you doing joining that church? So when I left, I was like, oh, we failed. And then I was like, no, we didn't fail. We strengthened the faith of 3 or 4 less actives. And it turns out even better than that, because the week before I was to go home, this probably even taught her for like 2 or so months, she shows up at one of our activities, not even with her grandma, just with like one of the other members. And we're like, what is she doing here? And she's like, I decided not to be a member of that church. And we're like, yes. And then I left. But 3 or 4 weeks after I left, she ended up getting baptized, and she's a recent convert now, so that was cool.